So Wuthering Waves has been out for almost 10 months now. It feels like so much has changed about this game since it first came out. We went from a rocky start to the game with 1.0 to the subsequent patches steadily increasing the overall quality. With more quality of life updates, unforgettable characters, new areas to explore and new ways on how to explore them, along with new challenges, the game kept being fresh and keeping players engaged. And after all of that, WUWA swept the entire gacha community away with 2.0, being considered by most to be the best update in gacha gaming. Hell if I'd know. I only played a handful of gacha games. Though with all of these changes, with all of these quality of life improvements, and all of the things Genshin will never, there is one major thing that the community does tend to discuss or argue about. It's been an issue since 1.0, and the problem is still very much there. And it's the fact that Ling Yang got a companion story before Calcaro, or Janjin. Wait, no, hold up, that's just my problem. Echo leveling. While not as bad as most games of the genre, the Echo grind is still just that. A grind. It's a common system a lot of these games have simply to keep you playing their game. MMOs have been doing this for almost 30 years at this point, and one of the most grindy MMOs is considered one of the big three. So obviously there's some form of twisted appeal, that I tend to call drug addiction, but hell, you could do worse. Nowadays, we have these free-to-play gacha games following this exact same mechanic, only 20 times more accessible, making that oh-so-satisfying dopamine rush all the easier to obtain. Unless you play Genshin Impact. I'm done. I promise. I'm done throwing punches. But let's not beat around the bush. WUWA's Echo grind, while much more accessible than other games, can still be tedious. Yeah, we can farm echoes in the overworld over and over again, and that's fine. It means you can keep going for that nightmare echo over and over again until you finally get the main stat you want, go to upgrade it, plus 25 it, and complain about not having any resources later down the line because you kept doing this and not just stopping at plus 10 if you didn't get a single good substat. Look, play how you want to play, just be prepared to get called out for this. Though even if you do just get them to plus 10 and go from there, the grind is still there. But at the same time, what happens when the grind is gone? Let's say, hypothetically of course, suddenly we're able to pick and choose the main stats of echoes, and you can now change all of your substats, right? Like, even if we were to add a bit of balance to the equation by still adding low substat rolls, but you can still change the substats on said echoes, what happens next? Well, now all of your characters are stupid simple to build. Every single one. Characters like Brant are now much easier to build, while other characters that weren't as hard to build are trivial. You now have every single one of your characters built now, so you can jump in TOA and just go ham, experimenting to your heart's content. The same goes with WUWA, which is all good stuff. I mean, it's all good fun, but what happens next? Oh, just wait until the next character. Might as well get their echoes pre-built, just take a short amount of time now, poof, done. Character out, got their weapon, experiment for maybe a day or two, and what next? Play through the events, cool stuff, might take another day or two, obviously hop on for those dailies and weeklies, of course, should only take roughly 15 minutes of your time. What next? Well, I mean, I guess just wait for the next patch, maybe go play some Monster Hunter, I guess. Exactly. You're not going to stop playing, but you're sure as hell going to be playing a lot less. I mean, what's the point now that leveling those echoes are so easy? See, by making this process too easy, it actually harms the game in the long run, because now there's no real reason for you to play too much anymore. You no longer have to plan out builds and think about what you're going to do for specific characters. Want to build Sanhua for damage? Yeah, sure, go nuts, I guess. Want to make Yinlin a main DPS? Hey, yeah, me too. Do you want to make Ling Yang actually viable? Look, I'll be honest, I don't think that's going to fix that problem. But once you do all of this, there's no real reason to stick around, and these games thrive off of you playing them. This grind is exactly what keeps players in the game. It's the bigger thing that keeps you coming back more so than the dailies. The tedious grind is a necessary evil. It's that same grind everyone criticizes or complains about that keeps the game going and keeps players coming back for more than just the daily or weekly and even monthly content. Think about it. Most of WUWA's events are time capped when they come out, so you wait until the whole thing is released, then do it all in one go. Even if you decide to add that as part of your dailies, that's an extra, 5 minutes, depending on the event? We come back because we want to build and improve our characters so our numbers can go up and clear times can go down. So what? That just means this is how it is and we all just bend over and accept it? Well, no. Unless you're into that kind of thing. I'm not shaming you for that. While I believe this grind is necessary, there are ways to at least break some of the monotony. Several people have already stated what needs to be changed about the game. Some good takes, others not so good. But I'm not about to call anybody out. Well, directly. I've got a few of my own takes as well, but I would like to say one thing. These are, for all intents and purposes, suggestions that I've been thinking about for the good amount of a few months. This is not me saying these absolutely have to happen, and everyone needs to say these exact things in the next survey. These suggestions are meant to bring up debate, conversation, and make people think outside the box more than anything. If you agree, then cool. Though maybe I'm missing some points, or maybe you see something that could negatively affect the game in the long term. It's vital that we come together and give Kuro Games the legit and concise feedback that they clearly are looking for. So take my points as simple suggestions, not what needs to happen. The goal is to just try to avoid mediocrity at the end of the day. By the way, that wasn't actually a diss, and if you thought it was, consider therapy. Alright. Let's get this out of the way. Yes, the man, the myth, the legend, the bald gotcha tyrant himself, Tectone, stated this probably 100 f***ing times. Blah, blah, blah. Dude's got a point. When you level echoes, you need sealed tubes or leveled echoes in order to get those levels up. However, you also need a secondary resource in order to unlock those substats you get every 5 levels. This secondary resource is the tuners. So this resource is essentially just there to add another step to a process that's already long as hell? Yeah, sounds worthless. This is just there to limit the player more and punish bad decision making, which, let's be real, probably already happened when you decided to plus 25 the damn thing in one go. Why not just give us the substat when we get that level and just remove tuners from the game entirely? Or if tuners absolutely have to stay in the game, have them do something else for echoes that could be a bit more advantageous. What could that be, you ask? Well, I'll talk about that at a later point, but let's start talking about definitely the biggest thing many players bring up when the discussion about the Echo Farm is brought up. Honestly, I felt the same way a while back. Tacet fields just seemingly do not give a lot of sealed tubes when you finish them, and in the beginning I had a very hard time leveling my echoes as it seemed like I never had enough sealed tubes. But then I started only leveling echoes to plus 10 and seeing if any of the first 2 substats were viable. If I had one good substat, or better yet even 2, I'd keep upgrading it. If neither substat was good, I wouldn't bother. The goal is, at the very least, 3 usable substats depending on who I'm building. Double crit is obviously the goal, but you'll want to boost the damage type the character uses, and also maybe some energy regen as well, again, depending on the character. 3 good substats is more than enough, and after I adopted that mentality, I've got an abundance of sealed tubes. However, to be fair, you could also say I've got all of these because I've already got some built characters on my account anyways. That's also true, but I'm still building characters and still working on new echo sets, yet I still maintain all of those tubes and tuners. I personally do not believe Tacet Fields should give more sealed tubes, simply because I really don't believe it's going to help, considering everyone pretty much does this anyways. This was very painful to do. I want you all to know that. Even if we're given enough to plus 25 every single echo we get, that alone is going to add too much ease to the grind. Echoes can already be farmed pretty easily on their own. Being able to level almost every single one you get will bring about the problem I mentioned earlier. That being said, adding a few more sealed tubes into the game wouldn't be too much of a negative, and Kuro Games already has said blueprint in the game. Fantasies of the 1,000 Gateways got a lot of criticism since its launch, and I was one of its critics. That being said, I liked the concept of the game mode, and even more, the rewards. It brought in more weekly asteroid in the game, which is good enough on its own, but it also gave resonant crystals after defeating the 2 bosses during your run. These crystals gave rewards found in Tacet Fields, as well as these nifty stackable echo boxes. When used, you can exchange these boxes for echoes from any of the Tacet Fields in the overworld. Honestly, these rewards are great. but my biggest gripe is they cost wave plates in order to obtain these rewards. Now, I'm not saying these need to be given out every single time you do this game mode, but how about giving us a weekly limit on these crystals? Like, give us a weekly limit of like 2, as we only get 2 throughout our first run anyway, and then if you decide to play this mode again before the weekly reset, the next crystals will cost wave plates. This way, more sealed tubes and tuners are received in moderation on a weekly basis. So here's a fun fact of the day. When leveling weapons, you can actually use other weapons as EXP. The higher rank the weapon, the more XP they give you. Considering we're not using the green or blue rarity weapons, this should come as no surprise. Okay, but why not do the same for non-leveled echoes? Currently, you can either use leveled echoes to level other echoes, or discard them for more sealed tubes. Honestly, I really haven't noticed much of a difference in doing either. Maybe I'm wrong and one is better than the other, but I just can't see it. Thing is, these echoes have to be leveled in order for you to do this. Any non-leveled echoes just sit in your inventory. They've got another use, but I'll talk about that later. So why not use these echoes for XP? See, another point I thought to myself as well, and one that I still kind of hold. However, if this is going to happen, I feel the echoes should only give as much as the lowest level sealed tubes, maybe even a little bit less. This seems the most logical, seeing as how you end up with a bit less XP when using leveled echoes as XP anyways. But here comes the second problem. With non-leveled echoes being used as XP, now nobody is going to use Echo Fusion. I mean, let's be honest, in its current state, using echoes for XP would be far more advantageous. So naturally, in order to compensate for this, or, you know, do it regardless, because this feature is long overdue for a buff in the first place, Echo Fusion 100% needs to be fine-tuned. But how? I don't know. Though, I do have a suggestion. Earlier, I talked about how if tuners couldn't be removed from the game, give them a separate use. So, how about this? Use tuners to apply a specific element to the echoes you fuse. So like, when you go to do fusion, the game allows you to choose whether you want to pick an element for the echoes or not. You pick from like a drop-down list or something, which element you want, like Void Thunder, etc. Once that's done, you either go for normal fusion or batch fusion. However many echoes you fuse in total is how many tuners you spend to guarantee all of those echoes become that specific element. So you fuse like 10 echoes for example. You used the tuners and poof, every single one of them now has Void Thunder. Granted, to keep things fair, the main stats should still be randomized. Plus, maybe when you do this, you also no longer get any extra echoes from this. I don't know, the last part might be a bit of a hot take. I'd like to see extras stay for this, but I'm thinking more so along the lines of balance. Or if you do this, like make it so that you can choose fusing 3 cost echoes or 1 cost echo, something along those lines. As far as how many tuners this should cost, honestly, I couldn't give concrete numbers. Like, I feel like 50 per echo would work, as that's how much you use to... Yeah, that. In the end, that could be up for more debate, but I feel 50 tuners per echo is a fair number. Feel free to comment on this one, as I might be missing something with this take, but the way I see it now, it gives tuners a much better use. It gives a much bigger incentive to use Echo Fusion, whether non-leveled echoes can be used for XP or not, and gives more echoes many people are farming for while maintaining that balance Kuro Games has been trying their best to keep for this process. That covers my overall thoughts. As someone who played MMOs for several years, one that was very, very grindy, the echo grind doesn't necessarily faze me as much anymore. Granted, most of my characters are pretty much built, but I'm still working on a few stats as well. Though I can see where other people are coming from, and do see where improvements can be made to make the grind less tedious, while maintaining the overall balance of the gameplay loop. At the end of the day, pull for who you want, play how you want to play. Just understand there's gonna be consequences. My name is Vogel, and I hope to see you guys later.